Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird, back with another review straight out of the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival and the Phoenix Film Festival for 2019. Although this one, I think it might have just been a Phoenix Film Festival presentation, surprisingly enough, because this movie was definitely horror movie quality and definitely counts for it, and was actually a very interesting premise. I mean, I, I wanted to watch it after because Fuego handled the scheduling this year pretty much, and he took a bunch of hours and figured out how we could fit all these movies in over the course of the 11 days of the festival. And this one he scheduled. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it. I was the only one able to make it at that time. So I watched this, and honestly, I really enjoyed this movie. So Beneath Us is about a group of undocumented workers, kind of those guys that you sometimes see. I don't know, I don't know if this is across the U.S. or just in southwestern U.S. or whatever. Forgive my ignorance on that. I am here in Arizona, so this is something very familiar to me because there's many places all over, even my town, which is Mesa, as opposed to the bigger one like Phoenix and Tempe and stuff like that. So I do see it a lot out here, so I'm guessing it's pretty much everywhere in our main cities. But it's where if you ever drive by like a Home Depot and you just see a group of usually Mexican guys standing outside, just kind of waiting to get picked up for work. And sometimes there's women there too, but usually I've just seen men. And I'm certain there's a lot of familial relationships between some of them, and this is how they're trying to feed their families and stuff. So I certainly don't begrudge them, but it's just kind of a weird thing that's developed, a group of workers just stand outside Home Depot or in some cases a Circle K out here. And basically, people just pull up and they have work to do around their house, and then one or more of the workers will come over and see if they need help, and oftentimes it's people just trying to get work done cheaper at their houses rather than actually paying a contractor all the money that they ask for to get changes, and overhauls done to the house. So that's the premise of this movie. There's a older brother and a younger brother that have come over from Mexico. One has been here a little bit longer and still has a wife and child over in Mexico that he's trying to raise money to buy passes for them, or buy a way for them to get across the border in an under the table fashion to a guy at like a pawn shop. And so that's his motivation when his little brother shows up unexpectedly at the beginning of the movie, having crossed the border himself. The little brother is, holds a grudge against the older brother for not having brought him or his family across, sooner and stuff like that. So there's a bit of a contentious relationship, but there's also love there because, they're brothers, and especially the older brother really loves the younger brother and wants to help and stuff. But it's just that's the relationship that the movie is built on. So you buy into it pretty quickly, and it makes you care about the characters. But I'll get into all that stuff in turn like we do these reviews. So yeah, my overall thoughts were I really enjoyed this movie, but continuing with the story, since I'm already halfway through it, they are waiting outside of a place. It was more of a Circle K kind of situation in this one, although that wasn't exactly where they were. It actually must have been outside of a Home Depot thing because there's a lady that comes out with, giant slabs of flat, wood in order for some kind of project. And so four of the workers run over, the two brothers. Actually, one brother runs over, and then there's another kind of loudmouth guy that, is kind of got that too cool for school mentality, and he sees this white lady, and he's like, ooh, like all, basically, wolf whistling her and stuff like that, to his friends. And then so they run over and they're like, do you have a project, miss? And she's like, yeah, I've got a contractor. They're like, contractor's expensive, we can do it for cheaper. And, we're all here now. And so she lets them do that. So she has four of them get in her car along with the materials and everything. And she takes them back to her house, and they're basically fixing up a guest house. For this nice house, and it's this woman and her husband who basically like goes off to play golf when they arrive and stuff like that. So they're rich, they're hoity-toity obviously, and so they're playing it up, and the workers go and go and go all through the day with the expectation of payment and stuff. And then the night falls, and they stop and approach the house, and she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And basically, she's not willing to pay them until the job is completely done. And so they have to work into the night. They have work lights going, so they keep working into the night, and then they try and take a sleeping break, but it doesn't go over very well. And they find out very quickly that this is not the situation that they thought it was. The whole perimeter is surrounded by a very large electrified fence that they only find out about at that night, when they try and get away. And so it's actually about this white couple who have tricked this group of undocumented workers onto their grounds to help finish renovating this house that they're attempting to flip. And there's some pretty cool twists and some pretty cool reveals that I won't spoil in the movie here, or in the review here. But this was a very entertaining movie, and something that, like, when you watch it, you're like, why hasn't anyone done this as a movie yet? Like, this is something that could have been done legitimately years ago, because this is something that's been a phenomenon for a while. But it's like, what if the people picking up the undocumented workers who don't really have any ties to anything or any way to call for help because they're undocumented, what happens if they get taken by a crazy group of a crazy family or whatever that's pretending to pay them for a job, when in actuality some sinister things are afoot. So it's a really great story. Honestly, it's a really good one that, like I said, is kind of like oh no, duh, this should have been done by now. But they execute it so very well, and that's a good segue into the acting, because it lives or dies by the acting, this story. And luckily the acting is very, very good. And all of the Mexican workers, they are very good in their characterizations. They all are extremely convincing. And I'm curious. I'm like, these are probably guys without any accents. I don't know, maybe not, but it's just fun to see the acting going on there. And then the white couple are so like over the top, and just they just revel in their richness. And then when they get evil, the woman especially, she is no person to be trifled with by any stretch. Like, I'm not going to ruin anything, but there are life and death situations numerous times. As I said, this does qualify as a horror movie. I'm just skirting around some things because I think it's worth you guys seeing it. It's probably considered closer to a thriller, but I still think there are enough horror elements that it could be considered both. So yeah, continuing on with the acting. I mean, those are the two main groups, the workers and the couple. So I guess I covered that pretty well. So let's move into the cinematography, which was very good as well. I mean, it was an accomplished movie. It felt very slick. It felt full of production value. It didn't feel like a low budget movie like sometimes happens when you watch festival movies. We had a good grouping of films that felt like really high end films that were just done independently, but done very quality. And this is one of them. And so I'm excited for when you guys get a chance to see this, because yeah, I mean, even the cinematography is worth speaking of. I mean, it's more than just functional, although it's not like stylized or anything. It's very straightforward, but it's done very competently, and it keeps you very engaged. And then finally, the effects. There are some gore effects, and there's not much by way of CG except for maybe enhancing the gore at a time or two, but that would be about it. So the effects that we get, they're sparse. They're here and there. There's not a ton, but they are there. And the ones we get are very worn right, put right on Front Street, let me say. So they don't hide a lot in this movie, which is good. And then I will say also, there is a specifically shocking moment in the middle of the final act that you're just like, oh wow. And it's just aggressive. This movie is definitely dealing with racism on a level as well, because they're working in a white neighborhood, and that kind of comes into play. And it's just, ooh, you just kind of lower your head and shake it a little bit when some things happen, because you're just like, man, if only our society weren't the way it is at times, you know what I mean? So It's got something to say as far as that goes as well. So this movie was just an all around success. I definitely would recommend you guys watch it. Again, it's called Beneath Us. I have no idea when it's going to become available, but usually these movies that we see at this festival end up being released by the end of the year. So keep your eye out for it. Write it down on your list because it's worth it. And let me just say thank you to Monty from the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, Jason from the Phoenix Film Festival, and Patrick from Allied for allowing us to cover this event once again this year and allow me to see all these great new unreleased, thriller or horror movies, whatever you determine this one to be. So yes, keep your eyes out for it. It's called Beneath Us. It's very much worth your time. Thank you very much for watching, you guys. I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared.